Welcome to Strat Chat, where we will be exploring a strategy's tactical plan, battle group, and build order prior to jumping into a replay analysis.
In episode 2, I'll be showing you the Luftwaffe Loiter strategy, which involves using the Luftwaffe Battlegroup, a heavy commitment to Tier 2, and a well-balanced army composition that allows Wehrmacht to consistently be threatening with vision control. I created this strategy to be a direct counter to the USF Scout Swarm strategy, shown in Strat Chat episode 1, but it's flexible enough to take on rifleman builds, as well as even the British forces.
When I made episode 1, I thought this strategy was impossible to counter as Wehrmacht, but I retract that statement as I've found a way to be consistently competitive against it. This has taken a significant amount of testing and grind on my behalf, but I'm proud I've come up with a way. At the start of patch 1.9, I lost almost 200 ELO as Wehrmacht trying to figure out how to counter US scout-based strategies, but I'm happy to say I've reclaimed most of that ELO back into the 1700 range thanks to this strategy. The Scout Swarm strategy is strong as it uses superior capping speed to create a large early game resource and positional advantage, with the M19 1930 cal heavy machine gun to then consolidate and hold this advantage with ample vision provided by the scouts, which are then usually converted into Pathfinders. Both units get substantial Vet 1 bonuses, which make it difficult for early game Wehrmacht to deal with, as USF are both strong and time effective with this strategy. I'd encourage you to watch the Strat Chat episode 1 if you'd like to understand the Scout Swarm strategy in more detail, but this video is focused upon how to counter it as Wehrmacht. To fight against the Scout Swarm, I sat down and thought, how can I counter this by appreciating both the strengths and weaknesses of Wehrmacht? Let's throw all the Wehrmacht pieces on the game board and consider them as I did. The Kettenkrad can outcap a Pathfinder squad, especially with the communications upgrade. It can push units to force an engagement in my favour or move Pathfinders out of cover, and this leads to a forced retreat and less capping power for the United States forces, so it's a big yes for the Kettenkrad. A single Grenadier will not manpower cost effectively beat a Vet 1 Pathfinder squad if they approach it whilst the Pathfinder is in cover. Alternatively, if Grenadiers get bogged down in an early cover fight, the Pathfinders will just hold that cover and cap the other side of the map with their more numerous squads. However, Grenadiers have good mobility. They synergize well with the Kettenkrad and shoot well on the move if the opponent is also moving, which can be seen from the vision advantage of the Kettenkrad. So this gives them a yes. An MG42 will be avoided by the Pathfinder's vision advantage, but it can still deny a respectful area and is useful to protect the flak team weapons, which will come later in the build order. So it is a yes for the MG42, but I'll get it a bit later in the early game. A mortar will not land enough shots against the mobile Pathfinders, and the 30 cal heavy machine gun can take the mortar hits, especially at Vet 1. The heavy machine gun will always survive and can continue to hold a key position through a complete mortar barrage if they really need to. Mortar is a no, even though it's intended to be the heavy machine gun counter. The sniper, whilst it can bleed manpower, it simply just gives up too much map control and can be negated by the smoke grenades. And also Pioneers, they just all lose, so they're a big no as well. Now for the mid-game tech options. Wehrmacht's Panzer Grenadier Company Tier 3 gets dominated by the USF M3 half-tracks. A Panzer Grenadier squad is too expensive, will be observed and suppressed as a high priority target. The Wehrmacht 251 half-track and PaK-40 will get zoned out by the US half-track with a 75mm anti-tank upgrade or even bazookas. So that leaves the Luftwaffe Company Tier 2 as the only option, and there are some great tools in there to counter this. If I need a way to counter the M3 half-track without sacrificing anti-infantry, the Flak 30 weapon team is the perfect unit in this scenario. It can damage the half-tracks, it can be used to outrange and push back the 30 cal heavy machine guns, and with Grenadier support you can merge and heal it on the field to keep it consistently at the front lines being a threat. With veterancy, it will also become very durable as well. If I need a unit to hunt down Pathfinders on the sides of the map without bleeding manpower, that's where the 221 Scout Car is a great unit. Not to mention it transitioned into a fantastic late game unit with the radio tech upgrade. Jaegers, they have their place, they're not worth it until a Panzerschreck is needed in the late game, which can be attained through a Grenadier conversion on the lowest vet squad. Now for the late game tech options, what can we consider here? If the Wehrmacht player tries to go for tier 4, it's highly likely it will be a battle where one P4 is struggling up against 2 Sherman tanks, and it's never going to end well like that, as the first Sherman can consistently be made by around the 13-minute mark, but sometimes even a bit earlier. USF will have the fuel advantage, and this comes from their superior capping power in the early game. I lost many games like this, so I thought, why bother with tier 4 until past 25 to 30 minutes? The best option, I feel, is to go and commit hard to tier 2, get verbal vins, get martyrs, get the tier 2 officer quarters upgrade, and use that veterancy to push hard in the mid game and create a massive manpower advantage by pushing hard with Flak 30 team weapons, guided by the vision of the Kettenkrad and the 221 Scout Car's radio. It works really well, and I only get a transition from martyrs to P4 once I recognize that the glass cannon nature of the martyr is at risk from a big armor push from the United States forces. The battle group that best suits this army composition is the Luftwaffe Battlegroup. The selection should be Recon Run, Fallschirmjägers, and then the Stuka Loiter, followed by the LG-40 and infantry reserves after that. I only go for the LG-40 first in the event that I've got a scout car out. The USF player has just made an M3 half-track with a quad cannon, and they've got their anti-infantry upgrade, and I can't afford the manpower of a flak weapon team. The challenges and habits I had to break when creating this build and move forward in the 1.9 patch against this oppressive US build were the following. Start with the Kettenkrad over a Pioneer. The Pioneer will just get kited and outcapped by the Pathfinder. Now, this is going to be a controversial one, but it works. Trust me, it works. Healing. Where to get healing from? The best option is the Headquarters Tier 0 healing over the Tier 1 Officers' Quarters Grenadier healing, or the Medic Bunker option. Wehrmacht cannot afford both the Tier 1 and Tier 2 Officer Quarters upgrades, so just commit to one. I'd recommend the Tier 2 Officer Quarters. Just let the Grenadiers naturally get to Vet 1 through combat, and they'll be able to use their healing and merging to support the flak teams later on. Whilst the Medic Bunker is the better late game option, as you get free reinforcements, it takes 65 seconds to build that bunker and to research the technology, and that is an unacceptable amount of tempo loss. Not to mention the Pioneer can't be out on the field capping, building cover, or fighting. The Tier 0 headquarters healing only takes 25 seconds to research comparatively. The Medic Bunker is also pretty costly at 70 munitions. It gets in the way of communication cables, snares, a few mines, popping an unsuspected suppression on the Flak 30 or verbal vins. These actions result in holding and gaining more map control, which will pay off for itself and lead to more munitions for the Stuka Loiter to come. The mid-game Loiter can only be attained by holding map control, and that's only possible if you're maintaining tempo and map presence. Munitions has a greater benefit this strategy, and it's also part of the reason why I recommend the Tier 0 healing, which costs 125 manpower and 20 fuel, being preferred over the bunker, which is 175 manpower and 70 munitions. Do not get the 221 Scout Car Panzerbuch upgrade. Get the radio antennas instead. Wehrmacht players need to make good decisions and outposition the USF player preemptively before they have the sight advantage from having multiple Pathfinder squads spread across the map. If the Panzerbuch kills anything, it's likely that the USF player has misplayed by not scouting, rather than the Wehrmacht player making some good play. With the Panzerbuch, if you also don't kill anything and the M3 half-track keeps on moving around, the Panzerbuch 221 Scout Car becomes a deadweight unit, whereas the radio antenna provides fantastic utility at all stages of the game. Not to mention that the flak weapon team is excellent against the USF T2 half-tracks, and it's really all the AT you need in the early game. Now, what's also really common with the Luftwaffe battle group is for players to go to the right-hand side first to get the infantry reserves reinforced reduction at 5 CPs as fast as possible. This strategy goes the opposite way. I go left-hand side to get the loiter as fast as possible. With this build as Wehrmacht, if you execute it well and even break even with the USF at 13 minutes, which is the similar time in which the first Sherman comes out, you can already have a martyr, Stuka Loiter, and Grenadiers snare and flak team buttons to secure the kill on a Sherman. go straight for the left-hand side and get the Stuka Loiter. If you kill that first Sherman or force them back to their base with a lengthy repair, you can get a massive triple VP drain on them and secure the map's munitions for a future Loiter. Don't play for the late game with the infantry reserves. Smack them out of the park with Wehrmacht's mid-game advantage before the Allied war machine can kick in.
So with that said, let's summarize all the Luftwaffe Loiter strategy into a build order suggestion. First unit to build is 1 Kettenkrad to cap the map and get vision control. Get communication cables as soon as you can. This is followed by 3 Grenadiers with 1 MG42 to help lock down a portion of the map and later provide suppression support for the Flak 30's flanks. At this point, you can determine if you will lock in the Luftwaffe Battlegroup and proceed with the strategy as I've stated. Otherwise, it's a pretty flexible start. You can go for other battle groups at this point. When you need, get healing via the Tier 0 medical station upgrade and build Tier 2 when you can afford it. When you build Tier 2, if you can get the 221 scout car out immediately, then go for it. Otherwise, the Flak 30 is the next best option. Get the radio antenna upgrade when the timing window for the aggression passes on the 221 scout car, and this should free up the Kettenkrad to start capping again. The LG40 recoilless gun when necessary, but I only typically get it if the opponent has a couple of M3 half-tracks out on the field, and I want to use camouflage to catch them off guard. But also don't sleep on the anti-infantry shots, because they can pack quite a punch to 30 cal heavy machine guns if you flank them. At this point, getting more flaks, getting additional flak team, getting 2 is a good idea. And then the support elements upgrade for verbal vins and martyrs, purchasing verbal vins and martyrs as you need. And if you are not sure on the tank depot or the Sherman timing, it's worth doing a Luftwaffe Battlegroup recon run to be confident that they are getting a tank out soon. Once you get 2 or 3 Tier 2 units out, it's a great idea to invest into the Tier 2 officer quarters upgrade. And then after this, if you don't have fuel for verbal vins or martyrs, don't float that manpower. Invest it into Fallschirm Jaegers for anti-infantry. Or if you need a bit of anti-tank, getting the Jaegers out with a Panzer Schreck upgrade is a good option to consider, especially with the Grenadier conversion on the lowest vet squad. If you've got spare munitions, you can invest it into the LG40 and have it sit behind your martyr line, but don't let this sacrifice a Stuka Loiter. That first Stuka Loiter, when combined with an attack or counter-attack from the Wehrmacht army, can do a lot of damage. If they get an AA half-track and they're keeping it in the rear, either loiter after you've taken it out or simply invest all the munitions into mines, LG40, suppression, or grenades. For all maps, place a priority on capping and holding a high munitions resource point. Hold your natural high fuel and try to contest the other fuels, but not at the expense of manpower. Wherever there is a long straight firing line, the Wehrmacht army can excel with the flak team's weapons, backed up by an MG42, martyrs, infantry, and the Kettenkrad providing vision. Slowly creep forward and take the map. For this reason, Pacino, Stalemate, and Semois are significantly more difficult to use this strategy on. The Kettenkrad takes too long to move around the map. Urban environment breaks sight and firing lines for flaks, MG42s and martyrs, and building clear is pretty difficult to deal with, whereas Pathfinders can just shoot recon flares and still attain vision control. I'd stick to Grenadier MP40s, double Pio starts with a sweeper and flamer on those urban style maps with the Tier 1 officer quarters upgrade, but you can even explore these as map veto options. So with the Strat Chat done, we'll jump into a replay analysis. My opponent this game is Callion. He's a strong DAC, previous number 1 rank player who's recently moved to USF and is climbing the ranks with the Scout Swarm strategy. But it appears I've been a bit of a brick in the road for him. So let's see how the Wehrmacht Luftwaffe Loiter strategy can be used to counter the US Forces Scout Swarm strategy.
In this Strat Chat replay analysis, we're going to be following from my Wehrmacht point of view up against Callion. And I'm going to be doing this with the fog of war left on so that you can clearly see my decision-making process throughout the game. I've queued up my Kettenkrad. I've got my Tier 1 building, and we'll go from there. You can see my opponent is building his Pathfinders. Usually this build's executed with getting scouts out first, then Pathfinders, but it still can be done like this to effect. But as we go through this game, I will be occasionally pausing and just elaborating on my thought process more so than what I can do when I have the narrated gameplay series, which is all live and done within the game. Here I've got the opportunity to stop, pause, and help reduce that learning curve as we go through this Strat Chat. Now, the priority here that I'm placing on the early map control capping is getting munitions. Like I said earlier, fuel, it's important to get so I can tech and deny it from my opponent, but the priority for me in the early game, it's to get that munitions. You can see here I've set my Kettenkrad to the +10. I'm using the spotting scope, seeing where is these scouts, where are these pathfinders, and you can see I got a glimpse of one there. So I know, all right, he's going a little bit to the south here. I'll finish capping this point. My grenadiers are over here, my pioneers are over here. I'll send this Kettenkrad south, and I've already recognized that this is the first upgrade that I want to get. Communication cables and later on scout car radio antenna. Those are the two upgrades that I place as the highest priority. So the moment I get 40 munitions, I will get that upgrade. The Grens are just wiring off some key locations. And I'm just racking up the veterancy with my Kettenkrad because every point that it caps, just like the scouts, it gets 100 experience. The Grens are moving into the center, and the Grens have encountered the Pathfinders here. Now, in the early game engagements, and I'll just pause it here. So my Kettenkrad has moved to the south. I've recognized this, and I will immediately pull back after that. But the focus where my screen was here. With Grenadiers against Pathfinders, I don't want to push them unless I'm 100% certain I'm going to win the engagement. In this circumstance, I've already done a little bit of damage, and I've got this squad that's finished capping and is coming around. But the moment that I see the second squad, which is there, you can see my reaction is just to back out. I immediately get back out. When I'm playing against Pathfinder-based builds, I want to slow down the pace of the game. I want to just cap my map, hold on to my map, and wherever I force a retreat on a scout, my Kettenkrad, which has been upgraded with communication cables, and you can see it's almost there. When I know there's a safe zone to cap, he will quickly cap it. I have faith that he'll be able to do that. The Kettenkrad can cap at the speed of about 2 scout squads can, because when it's got communication cables, because of the capture rate bonus at 33%, decaptures at 20%. And the fact that it moves so quickly between points, it can cap the map very quickly. So as long as I'm holding my half of the map, getting the munitions that I need, I'm content. I play for the mid game with this build order, and I don't want to bleed manpower. So I just back on up. That squad is backing up to go grab this munitions cutoff, and I'm just bringing everything around. One thing to notice as well, when you get the communications cables upgrade, it's a visual change on the Kettenkrad. You can see the communication cables are literally on the boot of the Kettenkrad. This is something that you can see. This is something your opponent can see. So just be mindful of that. An opponent that's got an eye for detail will see this early on and might know that, all right, he doesn't have the munitions to get mines or a flame or an MP40s or something like that. We'll continue. So I know I can't cap this zone. It's controlled by this house. So I'm placing my priority now to go to the north. One thing that I do here, observe this. My pioneers started capping this point, but then I've moved it out of the way. The reason I moved it out of the way is I can get the XP bonus from my Kettenkrad. So this will get it to Vet 1, which at Vet 1, it gets a 25 acceleration bonus, which is okay. It's nothing major, but it's something. The thing that I really want the Vet bonuses is Vet 2 and Vet 3, because you can see the vision range bonus is there, and as well as the capture and decapture speed at Vet 3. Now here, I recognize my opponent has a 30 cal heavy machine gun. Once I saw that, I immediately backed out. You can see my direction changed immediately. So I'll get out of the suppression, avoid that, and then just continue to hold this green cover. I just need to protect that cutoff. I know he does have one squad here, so he's probably going to send it across here to get that. But if he gets it, he gets it. It's fine. Because I am capping and controlling this portion of the map. The main thing I don't want to do is be forced to retreat. If I'm forced to retreat, then he knows he can take the map. And I don't want that to happen. So be patient and things will fall into place. In this case here, these two squads just have to defend. They're close to my base, so I can very quickly heal them up. And that will be a course of action after I've finished teching to the Luftwaffe company. But I have a sense already that my opponent has only got 3. Like, I've been counting as I go. I know he had 3 Pathfinders because he had 1 here, or 2 in the middle and 1 in the south. And the fact that he's got the MG and he hasn't capped this part of the map, I've already got that known in my mind that he has either 3 scouts and 2 MGs, or he's started the early teching process to infantry support center. Now that influences my next decision. Let's have a look at what this Grenadier and this Pioneer do as they move up to this point. Because I want to go push his cutoff. I know that he's in that area, or he doesn't have that military strength because he's down a scout. So I'm going to try to take advantage of this. And when I do this, I bring my Pioneer forward with my Grenadier. The reason why I'm doing this is the Grenadier, and I probably should have waited a moment with that Grenadier, had the Pioneer just a little bit closer. But the Pioneer has a sight advantage compared to the Grenadier. The Pioneer can see the MG before the MG can. So I can see that if he had an MG position here defensively or here, then I can just simply back up and push a different section of the map. But the Pioneer, the Grenadier know it's clear, so I continue to place pressure on that cutoff. And especially here, you can see I go for that same methodology.
The enemy has claimed our sector.
I know that, okay, I can't see him here, but I need to know if that MG, which was previously here, might be pushing back here. So I lead with the Pioneer. I know that, okay, he's not here. I can see everything. And that's a good. I know the heavy machine gun's probably somewhere in this region here still. So this Pioneer can just back up. Now that it's getting 2v1s, which it starts to back up. The Kettenkrad continues to cap the north. And now we see why there has been a lack of military on the field. He's got the M3 half-track already out there at 4 minutes, which is pretty quick. But I made the right decision. I hit his cutoff. I was aggressive. I didn't sit back. I was counting his squads and knew this is an opportunity here. I'm going to go for it. Whilst this was occurring, I also got healing in my base. I got the medical station upgrade. This didn't require my Pioneer to retreat back, build the bunker. I had the Pioneer scouting and guiding my Grenadier to be aggressive where I can. This is very important to counter this Scout Pathfinder MG based strategy. You need to maintain tempo. You need to constantly be pushing back at the player where you can. Obviously, if they've got the vision advantage, like here, he had the scouts in that building. He had him in the green cover position. No, don't fight those fights. But these kind of fights, yeah. And the Pioneer makes those decisions good. And it frees up my Kettenkrad to be capping the map with the communication cables. So it's a win-win in my eyes. Now here, I start retreating. I start retreating because I know that might be getting upgraded with a quad. This Grenadier squad has to move through the gauntlet where the heavy machine gun might be. It's copping some fire from the building. Can I see where that heavy machine gun is? Yeah, I get a little glimpse of it. So I know he's there. There's another Pathfinder there. So I'm counting the squads as I go through. Pioneer's not going to hold that cutoff by himself. No need to bleed manpower. So everything goes back. I try to steal that house off him, but he moves in accordingly to deny it. And that half track is going to come to as well. He's going to back up. He doesn't want to get fausted. And I remember thinking during that phase, I thought, yeah, if he's going to stall there, I'll make the opportunity to get a little mine down since I've got a really great munitions income. But here he did do a paradrop. The airborne has gone into this position here. And what do? Because I knew how much munitions I was getting. It was crazy. 52. I thought, no, I got to hang on to this as long as I can. So I park there, showing my frontal armor. And I just say, yeah, I'll soak up the damage until I need to really back out, and then I'll just repair up. Because it goes from 52 down to 10. He does hit the mine there, so it takes a bit of damage. And one thing to take note of here, this is actually a good point. This grenadier was here. It moved from here, and now it's moving up to here to claim the position of this house. I want to have vision of the center, and I know that pioneer would have been going back to base to reinforce. So if I can grab this, I'm going to grab it. Why would I send my grenadier here? There's no need to cap this. I've got the Kettenkrad. The Kettenkrad's a great capping unit, and I've had to bring it back to get it repaired. And once it's done repairing, it will go here, it will go here, and here. And if I have control of this house in this location here, yeah, it's at the moment it's a bit deeper in my enemy's territory, but that's fine. I'll be able to get vision from it. I'll know that my Kettenkrad can safely cap these points free from whatever might be around. Whilst this is occurring, my flak is moving up the map, getting into a position to threaten the opponent at the cutoff and also this fuel. Now, one thing I want to do and explain whilst it's in this pause state is a feature of the communication cables upgrade that is very, very important. Captured territory points have +7 vision. This is a really important point for this strategy. The +7 vision on captured points by the Kettenkrad. What does that look like? It looks like this. This is a point that the Kettenkrad has captured. You can see it has full visibility across all of the points. This is great. I can send my flak here and target anything that tries to capture this point. Let's compare this to a point that's been captured by my pioneer, this fuel. Or I think my Gren got it, I can't remember. Oh no, yeah, it was the Gren because it was building that wire. I can only see a little bit. He might be capping here, he might be capping here, here, and I can use attack ground to dislodge it, but I might miss. I might be exposing my flak to multiple squads being here and I'm not aware of it. So the flak, when it's moving into territories or defending territories where the Kettenkrad has been with the communication cables, it gives me the confidence as a Wehrmacht player to know that, all right, I can target this unit here, get the job done and back up. Whereas here, I might have to use a bit of attack ground to switch my target, or I might just lose vision of them completely. But here,
We have lost control of a victory point.
this was a bit fortunate. From this house, I managed to just get a little bit of vision of that squad there. And the great thing is the flak outranges the heavy machine gun, so I can shoot him, he can't shoot me. And he recognized this and immediately thought, nah, I gotta back up here, and he backs on up. The Grenadiers coming to the flank because I know that is advantageous, that engagement. And then I just simply hold the green cover until my flak can get there and push that half track back. But I think I could go to the fuel. Whilst this is occurring, those units went to the south. Mines are reinforcing that key section and getting myself into a favorable position. The flak sets itself up, gets down a nice volley onto that half track. The scout car's moving forward as well just to guide the way for my flak. I don't want to leave my flak exposed. And the scout car does really well at sniping units out of cover at long range. There's no need to push in deep with that scout car. It can just sit at max range and chip away at them. Even whilst it's in cover, I think it's getting an elevation bonus there as well, which is handy. So there's a bit of increased accuracy. But I'm keeping my flak there because I know he might try push me. So I'm happy to just stay there, take that head-on hit, and not worry about having to shoot at that paratrooper because my scout car is going to get the job done. I've got faith in my scout car. Now, what the next priority is to upgrade my radio antenna so that I can see the map. Now, what I built here was the MG42. I got this a little bit later, the MG42, because I realized the early game build order didn't call for it, because he had a fewer units in his tier 2 army composition. If he got the second MG, I probably would have got this MG42 out myself, but now I want to definitely get it. I want to get it so he can protect the flak. Protecting the flak and providing that suppression is really important. Whilst the flak deals the hard-hitting damage. Yeah, I can pop this suppressing fire ability on my flak if I need to. It deals suppression damage, increases burst rate, but it drops the accuracy, so it doesn't do as much damage. And I usually use that as a bit of a panic mode in case they're pushing me and I don't have adequate suppression and I know I'm not going to be able to get out and I have to engage that, then I'll pop it. Sometimes I might not even have the munitions for it. So yeah, you have to use this ability sparingly. We need to save up for that loiter or place mines. This is more of a last-ditch effort resort. Or sometimes you can use it offensively as well. I'll let you make the call on that. If there's a good opportunity to use it offensively, use it. But the MG42 is important to defensively protect this. Keeping the MG42 just behind the flaks is ideal because they can't see the MG42 until it's too late and they overcommit to an engagement. So here, I'll go and tag map for a little bit. You can see the Kettenkrad's capping up the south. I'm building cover at his fuel location. Building cover there. Capping up the middle. The MG's just behind the flak. This is good. MG42 says no to that though, so we just back on up. Let's follow the Kettenkrad. The Kettenkrad's on a control group because it is a hero unit this game and to this build in general. The moment I lose my Kettenkrad, I feel very exposed until I get a scout car out. But the scout car and the Kettenkrad both play their role. They have a synergy with each other where the Kettenkrad can see really well on open plains. You can gauge the recon scan because it gets plus 35 vision directly in front of it. But if there's a hedgerow blocking it or a shot blocker, then it can't see it. Whereas the radio antenna, which I'm now upgrading, I should have got this a little bit earlier, but that's fine. This is a cheap ability at 35 munitions, but oh boy, you can see the benefit it brings from this game. It's so important, this upgrade, because it gives you the ability to create a positional advantage. The strength of the Pathfinder build is the fact that they can have 3 to 4 Pathfinders seeing a big portion of the map, seeing your units before you see them, and they can just reposition their heavy machine guns accordingly and their units in a better position until there's an open flank or there's a hole. But this radio prevents that to an extent. How does it prevent it? Let's have a look at what I do here. Now I've been listening in the fog of war during this part. I know that there was a half track here. You can hear it. So I know he's got it. His arm is there. All right. He's got it there. I put my Pioneer in that building just to visually check on this area. But I need to know where is his infantry. I send this scout car up here so that I have an idea of how many units he's committing to the north. I can see him here, but is there more? I don't know. So let's wait till the radio antenna pops up. So we've got the scan going out, and there we go. There was one scan. It's now faded. There was one squad that was spawned that is in this location here. You got that Pathfinder just hiding there. And I've just gone to all map mode just for the time being. There's an MG42 here, or a heavy machine gun, I should say, sorry, a 30 cal. So he's got 4 infantry squads that are in the north. I wasn't aware of this paratrooper squad yet, but so be it. And as a rough rule of thumb, when I'm doing a maneuver like this, I just count my own squads. I know, all right, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I know that 4 of my opponent's squads are here. So they've probably got 8 as well. So the other 4 I'm expecting to be in the south east on this side. So I know his army is split in two. So I can do two things at this point. I can either dump all my army on one side of the map and quickly push him out from one side, or I can spread my units and hold him accordingly. What do I opt to go for here? I go for the spreading method. The reason why I spread is because I have control of this building. I can preemptively see if he's going to be coming through this avenue. From that vision control, I know that, all right, I can spread here, but I also have more high damage units compared to him. So I can spread, be aggressive, force a retreat, and then rebound to the other side. I've got more control in that sense, and that comes from the strength of the flak guns. So the engagement begins in the north here. You can see on that TAC map what's going on. I'll go back to my point of view now. And you can see I'm picking up on all of this with my radio antenna. I know that he's pushing here. My flak's going to push here first, force them back. Once they're forced to retreat, we can rotate this flak. But just be mindful, he might try to throw a satchel. So I just back on up. And now this is what I'm talking about. I forced the retreat. What's the first thing that you notice happen once I force the retreat? Mr. Kettenkrad dives straight in. He says, this is clear territory for me to cap. I can gain this territory, hold it, maybe pop a mine down or two, but I can cap it faster than what my USF opponent could because I've got communication cables and I can quickly drive from here to here to here. Win, win, win. I just need to clear the last engineer and that's it. Whilst this was occurring as well, I even just sent my Pioneer to his cutoff because it's a high risk, low risk, high reward kind of scenario. I can't really do much with my Pioneer anyway. I swapped out my MG42 in that building. So I thought, yeah, I'll just dump it on his cutoff. If I decap it, I decap it. I think I do manage to decap it. These guys are all retreating. Yeah, I decap it, and then I know once I've decapped it, he's going to be basically stuck there trying to shoot at me until I move. So that means Mr. Flak can come up. Mr. Grenadier can come across. And these guys in the south, whilst this was going on, destroyed the half track as well. There's a lot of things that were going on there. And you can see from this positional advantage, I'm starting to not only dominate the resources through my good decision making of the scout car and the Kettenkrad, but it's starting to roll over into a massive manpower advantage as well. So I get my MG42 out of the house. It's getting the VP, suppressing away. Grands are holding this point here. 30 cal black. They're going toe to toe. The flak is doing the high damage DPS. I'm capping the territories in the south. And I know here that this is not favorable. I gotta get out of there. He got a good flank with a big blob pushing my way. Scout car dives in to absorb a little bit of damage to try save the MG42. Unfortunately, it worked. If he continued to focus fire there on my MG42, would have been the best thing for him. He might have got it. But I back out at this point. Now, important thing to observe here when I'm backing out, look at the direction that I'm moving in. I'm going in a straight line. I'm going in a straight line from here to here. This is a... If I went this way, this airborne blob is highly likely to intercept me. You can see it's moving across. I knew this. So I don't want to go this way at all. There's a chance that if I go this way, he's going to get me. I don't want to take that risk. I go this way. And let's have a look at what this flak does. Yeah, it's capping the point. But this is a massive threat. If I lose the flak, it's hard to get him back as Wehrmacht. So stop capping the point. Go help your flak brother. And that's what I do. My Kettenkrad can cap this back later. This is the priority. And for those that paid attention at school, This is a little bit of Pythagoras' theorem. Here we're going from this point to this point. It's a longer distance, but when you move diagonally, yeah, it is a shorter distance. So because this is a shorter distance, I'm going to be able to intercept his paratroopers as he comes across, which is good. I want to be able to have my flaks covering each other. I want my MG covering my flaks and vice versa. Yeah, the MG's 42 is moving back here, but the flak is going to go and help out his brother. Pythagoras theorem. Is that the first reference to Pythagoras theorem in Company of Heroes? Maybe? I don't know. But they're coming across. I'm placing a mine there just to protect that. I know it's now safe. So I diverge from the diagonal path and I move in. Now I've also got the verbal vins out. So this is that part of that build order where I want to invest in tier 2. Next upgrade that I've queued it up here is the veterancy bonus. So I want to have my flaks get a veterancy buff, which they're already there. But more especially the verbal vent. I really want my verbal vent to have vet 1 right off the bat because that will give me access to suppression. And that's really useful. And eventually I will convert one of these Grens into a Jaeger. It can come into the battlefield at vet 1. As my martyrs get onto the field, they'll be vet 1 and so on. It just is really beneficial. I made make the decision here to just push him. I've got my flak there, which is high DPS. I've got this unit here, which is high DPS. They're going to be able to do damage quickly. That flak has caught him out there. So that's another great forced retreat. I can just quickly repair that flak out now. Everything's pushing up. I'll go back to the TAC map so you get a sense of what's occurring on the map. This Kettencrad is going to cap this point, then start going on a capping mission after that. I think it goes to the 10 Muni. These guys here are going to continue to push up forward. Radio antenna is going to identify that that squad's there, there. So I know he's pretty spread out, but I can infer that anyway just from the fact that I did force a massive retreat. I could have pushed that, but then I think I hesitated because I just wasn't sure if he might have been getting a Sherman out. Because Shermans, when your opponent is playing this play style, it's quite common to get a Sherman out at the 12 to 13 minute mark. And I just erred on the side of caution. All right, so we'll continue to observe the map. And I know that eventually I am going to need to get a martyr, but I want to make that decision when I have confirmed that the tank is on the field. So I do pop a recon run here. And from that recon run, I can see the tank depot is there. Sherman's probably going to be coming out soon. So I start to queue up the martyr accordingly. Now, with that martyr being built, once it's built, I also want to hide it because I don't want the martyr to be seen. I want to keep an element of surprise. I was so lucky there. I want to be able to ambush the first Sherman as it comes out. I do get off a really nice suppression there, which forces him back. And then I'll just bring this verbal vin to the south to deny this fuel. Still being cautious about it. I've got the flak in the rear here just in case I need to button the vehicle. And I know I heard this US plane going across, so I knew he's dropped a weapon team. I doubt he's gonna get in another paratrooper. I'm pretty confident it was the anti-tank gun. So that made me more cautious with my martyr. I knew that, all right, this Kettencrad really has to guide my martyrs to make sure I don't go head first into an anti-tank gun line. So I keep the Kettencrad in the middle here. Scout cars being placed forward aggressively there. I knew that radio was detecting there, so I backed that Grenadier up into that green cover just to hold a line where I know I can fight my with my full army against his and not be retreating one unit at a time. I get my 2 martyrs out, and where do I bring him? I bring him up into the center. The reason why I bring him into the center, it's just the place that I can be most responsive with. If my opponent brings his Sherman to this side here, I can move my martyr across. If they move across to the right, I can move to the right. It's just a nice central position. Just like in chess, if you control the center of the chessboard, you control the movements across the board. And it's that same premise in Company of Heroes. Now, the other thing that really makes this a kind of a target for the Sherman is this flak. This flak is threatening his cutoff, so I know that that is going to be a potential target. The verbal wind takes some shots, so I have to repair it. But I start listening in the fog of war here. I could hear something. I don't think it's yet coming into effect, but it's coming. But one other thing, actually, I wish I brought this to the attention earlier. But this Kettenkrad is still in the center here. It's providing vision. I've had a few radio beacons pop off here, and I know exactly how many units he's got off at the top. I think I counted like 3 or 4. We can maybe confirm that with this. So, yep, I've just gone to full vision mode. So I counted 1, 2, 3, 4. Going back to that same principle as before, and I know there's a 5 here. And I knew there was a unit down in the south. I knew that's probably just a Pathfinder, so I set my scout car here. The Kettenkrad isn't really in a position where it can actively cap anymore. It's capped a lot of the safe points, so keeping it in the middle, just providing vision, is a good thing. And I can actually bring my scout just to... doesn't have to be dependent on vision anymore. It can, through the radio, it can just deny some caps whilst the verbal wind is being repaired. So that was part of that decision. Otherwise, once it gets into the mid-game, I tend to not be moving the radio antenna scout car much because it only applies this ability when it's standing still. And I want to keep it standing still so I'm not getting caught out of position. And parking it behind points like here, 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 in the middle of the map where it's behind a shot blocker is ideal. But continue just firing away. And I was listening here the whole time. I was thinking, I want to know when this Sherman comes out. And you can hear it now. And I saw that tree crush. Once I saw that tree crush, I called in the recon run. The reason why I called in that recon run is I wanted to be 100% certain which direction that Sherman tank was going. Was it going this way or was it going this way? Because that would dictate where I put my martyrs. And let's see how this goes. So he's coming across here. I've got my 4 CPs just clicked over now. They just clicked over now. So I have access to the Loiter and I bring my 2 martyrs up. They're already moving up into position to accommodate for this. I use the stationary fire ability, which increases the weapon range and the rate of fire. And I wanted to use the button vehicle here, but I don't think I reacted fast enough because I was going through my commander tech train there just to unlock the Loiter. But if I use the button there and the Loiter and these martyr shots, this would have been dead. It wouldn't have been able to get off that final shot. And furthermore, if this was a Dozer Sherman, Dozer Shermans have just a little bit more health compared to a standard Sherman. So it was able to get away with just a smidgen of health. If that was a normal Sherman, and I tested it in the cheat mods, 4 martyr shots and the Loiter, it's dead. But that was the Dozer, so it managed just to get away. But the Luftwaffe is also targeting the anti-tank gun, which is going to give me the ability for my grunts to be aggressive, push up the map, and get some nice damage off on these key units. But most importantly, get me a lot of map control. This base pins him for a while, and it allows me to get a massive resource advantage. So much so that I'm able to keep on pushing, get a few more shots off with my verbal vins, knock off the vet from that anti-tank gun, and back on up. One thing also is I did build an ammo OP here. I built that a couple of minutes ago after I finished repairing my verbal vent, just so I can keep on using these loiters to my advantage, especially with getting these two 16+ ones in the north back in my control and capping the south accordingly. So he's starting to put some pressure across on this side. Getting a huge munitions income again. It's at 51, but once I cap these 2 points in the north, it will spike to 77, I think. Yeah, 61, then 77, yep. So that's going to give me a munitions income where I know every 3 minutes, which is the cooldown of this ability. It's got a cooldown of 180 seconds. Every 3 minutes, I'm going to get 231 munitions. So that means I can, every 3 minutes, I can use the loiter. I can put down a couple of mines and have a snare from a Faust. That's pretty big. And it means that I can time a massive assault every 3 minutes, which becomes the trend of the remainder of this game once I've established this superior map control position. I know that I am safe to just contain him, play a playstyle that is about containment, holding onto the VPs where I can, and just playing a playstyle where I'm not overextending. I'm just pushing him in a corner, getting the VPs, getting the munitions, and letting the Luftwaffe support my offensive. I've also just teched a tier 4. The reason why I've teched a tier 4 is I'm recognizing that the martyrs, they are good in the first few engagements, but once they get 2 tanks out or multiple anti-tank guns, they become really just glass cannons.
Understood.
So I transition into P4 at this point because it's a more robust, versatile tank. But I can see here, my Kettenkrad is spotting these anti-tank guns, and this is where the Flak and the Kettenkrad really start to show their synergy on the open plains at this, on the beach of this Twin Beaches. The Kettenkrad in this next engagement, in conjunction with the Flaks, is really going to bully my opponent. His heavy machine gun gets outranged. His anti-tank guns get outranged. The martyrs are just behind the Flak, so he can't bring his dozer up. And it's all being guided by the vision of the Kettenkrad. So you can see here, and even the MG42 in the rear. He does pop a flare, so he knows that I'm slowly creeping up. I drop in the Fallschirmjägers in the south here. They've just pushed that Pathfinder back. And I'm just creeping forward. I've got sight. My verbal vent's pushing that squad. And this is, well, I'm not getting kills, but I'm just slowly pushing him back. And by slowly pushing him back, I will eventually get triple VP control in this area. Now, he becomes aggressive here. He brings up his dozer, but that's fine. The martyr's in position. Yeah, he'll get off 1 shot or 2, but the Flaks, if he tries to push up further, are going to do more and more damage on him. Starting to chip away further. I'll even go like this so you can get a good sight of what's going on. Flaks just haven't stopped shooting the past minute or 2. They're just pew, 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 pew. And doing their thing. Kettenkrad's just slowly moving forward again. Interpreting the battlefield. Knowing that this is safe. And what have I just achieved? I've achieved triple VP map control now. The VPs are really going to start ticking in my favor. It's going to be putting pressure on him. He has to do something. I know he's going to push out aggressively now to try break out. So what do? I park my scout car outside of his base. This radio beacon can see now this exit, and this exit. I know exactly which direction he's going to move to next. Which direction does he move to? He moves to the north. He's pushing northwest. Everything was moving in that direction. So, naturally, I'm going to start to shift my army across. Yeah, he brings his MG here, so I recognize I'll just smoke that, just waste its time. I've got my loiter available. This squad goes there. And then my army, it's probably a little bit delayed. I know I was thinking I got to move across. I probably just didn't do it. Now it starts moving across. I cop a couple of big hits there, but the Stuka Loiters will save the day. Verbal Vin's just going to back up, get behind that shock blocker. Marta's going to push back the dozer.
Panzer field ready.
Flaks are doing their thing, and the flaks are going to continue to push up aggressively. Whilst this is occurring, and I know my loiter is going to be handled this area quite accordingly, I start to focus on macro. So what is the macro that has to be done here? It's placing forward mines here. It's healing up this flak. It's placing mines at this VP. It's bringing my P4 out of my base. It's bringing my P4 out of my base. There we go. And then once I've done my macro, my management of what a task that will make it better in the next engagement, then I start to think, all right, let's push up more aggressively here. And that's a little bit of a trait from Age of Empires. Back in Age of Empires days, it was good to always focus on your macro. Get your macro sorted, and then once you've got your macro sorted, then focus on your micro. That's one of those scenarios where it popped into my head. So we got a little bit of a vision advantage here from the Polishim Jaegers. I pop off a Faust, or try to, but then I realize that that's not probably going to work. And then I've set up a nice ambush there. I push back now, knowing that, all right, those anti-tank guns are moving forward. Gonna lose the glass cannon martyr here, but that's all right. Taking down Dozer is fine in my books. It's a good trade. And then the flaks are just gonna mop up all the rest of the overextended infantry. He's continuing to push down the middle. The martyr is in position there. It is caught out a little bit. I should have microed that one back a little bit earlier. I think I was focused in the north, but he trades the captain to get that vision as well, so there is a trade-off there. Here, I activate button to just prevent him from pushing any further, and he would have been a little bit cautious just in case there was another martyr or the P4 lurking around, and he backs out. Radio intercepts letting me know that those anti-tank guns are still parked over there. And the triple VPs just keep on ticking. Now, I know he does have a sweeper here because he's disabled the mines. And what I'm thinking now is, you can see my P4 is moving into the north. What I'm thinking here is I want to separate his anti-tank guns. His anti-tank guns are becoming a problem. So I figured if I push here, harass the med tent, it's going to force his anti-tank guns north, but I didn't account for his desperation on the VPs. He actually moves south here. He continues to move south with all of his army. Anti-tank guns 1, 2, 3, bam, bam, bam. Dead verbal Vin gets overextended without infantry support. I should have been bringing this infantry up at the same time, and then I'm forced just to back up. So I did overextend my tank there. But I'm now being able to threaten his cutoff and force those anti-tank guns backwards and just contain him in that corner again. By containing him, like before, that Kettenkrad's just capping the north, getting that munitions income back into my favor, and I'm able to continue that loiter every 3 minutes. Panzer IVs are still separating, keeping them spread out, so if I see a flanking route, I can capitalize on it. I did upgrade with that squad to a Strat Jaeger as well to help out against that bulldozer Sherman. But you can see the manpower advantage, it's just continuing to creep in my favor consistently, and it's coming from good decisions made from the Kettenkrad and the radio antenna scout car. The one time I didn't use them, look what happened. My verbal Vin got wasted. So playing that vision game is really important against the Pathfinder build because, yeah,
Enemy down to 75
even though I've
points.
killed 2 of his
Do not let up.
Pathfinders, he's only got 1 left on the field. He still has a good vision control, especially when else these units are all concentrated on this area. And I'm picking up on this. The radio antennas is telling me that, yep, he's all concentrated here really, really densely. But I'm not sure exactly which one of these are the key units. I think the furthest one at the back is generally the anti-tank gun. So I try to prod there with my flak, but I know that that's not going to happen. So I just back up, bring the Gren across to heal it. Cop a shot there. It's not worth it. I just back up everything. Merge, heal, and just wait till my munitions gets into a place where I can do a recon run and a loiter. But I'm also thinking at the same time, he's airborne. He hasn't used much munitions now. He's probably saving up for a bombing run himself. So I have to keep my units spread out. And knowing that, I start to spread my units and try not to glob them together, which is easier to do without the martyrs. If I was still stuck in martyrs, it's a bit harder to do that. But the loiter comes in here, forcing him to go back. My intention here is just to gain this triple VP cap again and just contain him in the corner. So, but I know those anti-tank guns are those 2 units at that far side there. So I know I can't push in again. I don't want a repeat of what just occurred. So I just observe, let the Stukas fly overhead. They're doing their spins. And now he engages his recon run. And once that recon run came overhead of my opponent, I thought he's looking for a bombing run here. So I think, where are my clustered units? He might pop it here. No, he pops it here. So I immediately, when I can react, press retreat, get the flak back, get the MG out of there. But they are taken out. I just didn't react fast enough. I did manage to kill the anti-tank gun during that. And I'm focusing that other anti-tank gun there. That's the priority. Because if I kill that, it's going to allow my P4s just to rush in. But I didn't manage to get the kill. So I'm a bit passive here to dive in any further. But my Kettenkrad's not. He knows that this is an opportunity. Let's go cut him off. So I cut him off. And then I realized there's no point to cut him off. I'm just going to go straight for the VP. So I decap the VP, reverse him up. This guy is the hero of this game. He always is for me, the Kettenkrad. He cops a hit to the face, but the plus 60 health at vet 3 gets him out of there. And then I know that I just want to get my MG42. Just retreat so he doesn't get it and lock down this VP. And I'm starting to poke a little bit. I'm trying to look for a gap, but I know that no. I should just back up. Back up, fight another day. No need to go full suicidal on the VPs. With those 2 dozers on the field, they are a risk. But there was the opportunity to kill the para there. So even if I lose that squad now, I know I've got the returns of killing an anti-tank gun and a para. It is still worth it. Of getting another Pioneer to just make up for these repairs. P4 can push in on the side here, and it's just about containing him a little bit, just holding him in place,
Pioneers are reporting for duty.
not losing my tanks, and just waiting for the next 60 minutes to elapse, or 60 seconds to elapse, so that I can get out my loiter and push him back once again. He did do another paradrop in the north here. So my few units that are at full capacity on health and repairs is this P4 and the Grenadier that's moving out of the base with it. So they'll go handle the north, get that northern VP back into my hands.
The enemy holds all victory points.
And then it's about just fighting for the VPs at this point. I've got all the munitions and fuel that I need.
We have finished the research.
So I force a retreat on them, just go straight for them. Grenadiers are coming up the rear. And as my vehicles repair, I'm just putting them in a position where I can take this VP on in multiple directions and spreading out those Jaegers. Kettenkrad is just scouting the way again, figuring out where is that anti-tank gun that I killed earlier.
The enemy remains stubborn. We are down to 300.
But of course, we're still going to heal that, repair up that Kettenkrad. Now, what do we see? We see some opportunities for the flak. We know the Loiters come back into my possession. Luftwaffe is overhead. So I call in my recon run first. I can see exactly where he is. Call in the Stuka Loiters as well. And then I go in for the push. I'll be able to grab this VP in the south. Everything is moving forward.
Enemy forces have claimed our territory.
Kettenkrad's leading the way, and my opponent calls it GG because he realizes I'm going to grab that VP and clear off from there. But we'll have a look at the stats so you get a sense of how this plays out. So you can see munitions gain there was substantial, and I constantly placed a priority on it. Fuel wasn't as important. Munitions, yes. I needed as many munitions as I could, and I capitalized on that by just multiple recon runs, multiple loiters, and that allowed me to do my thing. I'll have a look at the unit stats as well. So the flaks here, you can see how much work they did. 27 kills, 8 reinforcements. It's not that many. Yeah, I merged on with my grenadiers a few times, but the fact that I've reinforced these such a low amount means they're constantly at the front lines. They're constantly doing the damage that they need to do under the guidance of the Kettenkrad and the protection of the MG42, and also the radio antenna of the scout car. Whilst the verbal wind protects the sides of the map, the martyrs protect against any armor threat, and the P4s builds up that late game army composition. But that's that. A look at his army.
I hope this video gives you some inspiration on how you can approach breaking the metagame in patch 1.9 and a strategy brainstorm methodology that can be applied to all factions moving into future patches. The Luftwaffe Loiter strategy is a flexible combined arms build that is a lot of fun to play. It may take a change in unit control and decision making, especially if you are used to playing a heavy T1 or T3 Wehrmacht play, but it's a powerful alternative. If you want to check out some more narrated gameplay examples of the Luftwaffe Loiter strategy against other USF and British Forces strategies, be sure to check out the videos linked in the description. Until then, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye!